Verse 27. In the war between Tos and Sun, which lasted 9 years, it was an even game, for both cities were entirely destroyed and all the people in them, and also their tributary cities as well. But the city of Tol was destroyed within itself, for there was no city near enough to war upon it. The angels brought virus from the dead of other regions and inoculated the breath of the people of Tol, and their flesh festered, and they died of themselves without war. So again, it's showing you the scale of intelligence of these angels to do these things, to bring plagues or viruses from the dead regions and bring it to where the living is, to inoculate the living and kill them off. These things were done by the angels. Verse 28. The whole time of destruction was 160 years. And after that, Persia and Hellas were wasted and deserted, and wild beasts coursed the country far and near. See, while Kemet wasn't going through warfare during these times, these regions were. And this is why it's hard to find concrete evidence in some of these regions, because it was hundreds of years of warfare going on, while hundreds of years in Kemet, they was establishing peace, harmony, and unity based off the knowledge given from Osiris. And this is why from India to China, to ancient Persia, to Europe, and all those regions, you had warfare, while in Kemet, you had the opposite. Verse 29. And Osiris said, I will make the land of Egypt the greatest country in the world. I will have the place of my dominion near at hand. Satan had said to Osiris, if thou destroy not Persia and Hellas, behold, Baal and Astorth will rebel against thee, choosing these lands for their own kingdoms. Verse 30. But both Satan and Osiris, who now falsely styled himself God of heaven and earth, were powerless to prevent the march of Jehovah's hand. For as he gave liberty unto all his creatures, and as Osiris had fostered the idea of being sole ruler of earth and heaven, even so the seed of his own sowing took root in Baal and Astorth, and they formed a compact with each other and seeded from Osiris after all. And in order to determine what share of the earth should be theirs, a war in heaven ensured between the three gods. Tian, Sutga joined in also. So here it's showing you that after Baal and Astorth subdued these regions, that they decided that we're going to start our own heavenly kingdoms and we're not going to be subservient to Osiris no more. So here's your triangular war that's about to take place. So now you're about to have war in heaven on earth in all these regions. Now, Book of Wars Against Yehovah, chapter 53, verse 1 through 10. It states, Yehovah had said, I created man blank as to good and evil, and I gave him liberty. And I gave liberty also to the spirits of the dead. But these spirits set themselves up as gods, and to glorify themselves use mortals in their own way. For they have found that mortals could be turned to good or evil, to war or to peace, to virtue or to lust, according to the inspiration of the angels watching over them. Verse 2. But this I provided a remedy also, and without abridging liberty, which was that the gods, in contention for mortal souls, should fall out and ultimately destroy their own heavenly kingdoms, wherefrom angels and mortals should escape from bondage. Verse 3. And this was so, Tian and Sutga and Osiris, even while their wars and machinations were going on with mortals, were scheming for mastery in Haiti, each to overthrow the others, and involving them in ruin. And it thus came to pass that a triangular war ensured in these two heavens, in which upward of 10,000 millions of warring angels were engaged hundreds of years. For as mortals engage in corporeal warfare, or physical warfare, so do angels engage in Isaean, or spiritual warfare. For though they cannot kill one another, they can bind and enslave and cast one another into hells, and surround them with never-ending fire, so they cannot escape. And the warring gods sent their armies forth to make captives of their enemies, who, when seized, are either made subjects of or else cast into torments. And these armies of warring angels, hundreds of millions strong, go into the kingdom of another god, and out of suburban districts, carrying hence the subjects with all their accusations. And yet, at times, these raiding armies venture too far and are themselves captured and cast into torments, so that gods in Hades wall their kingdoms around with standing armies, even as they have taught mortals to defend themselves, and their enemies seek to invent means to break these armies through and go in and plunder and destroy. Now here is a classical example of war in heaven, and this example is the same example that we see on earth, with war on earth. So as the old saying goes, so below, so above, so below. And here Osiris is revealing to you clearly how these things transpire in the past. Just as we go to warfare, likewise with the angels. It's because of the angels why we go to warfare. So when you see regions of war on earth, there's regions of war within those heavens on that part of the globe. Verse 4. In times of which madness, no voice from Jehovah's angels can gain an attentive ear amongst them, even the same as when mortal kings are at war. For one to say to them, Behold, Jehovah is all peace, they will even curse Jehovah and peace. So do the fighting angels threaten and curse if one of Jehovah's Holy One interpose in peace and love. Verse 5. As like a burning fever or a canker worm that needeth run its course before healing balm availeth good, so Jehovah permits the gods to pursue their reign, till helpless they fall. Environed in their harvest they sow. For a time cometh to every man woman born on earth or in heaven, when sore disaster, if nothing else, will cast him helpless in agony, to make him own the mighty power who created him, and make him supplicate in pity for some helping hand to lead him safely to the all persons pleading voice. Then he is ready to listen, to turn from gods and lords and saviors and sons who profess to save, and to stand upright before the Father, and learn to know him, and willingly learn peace, love, reason, and truth. Verse 6. Jehovah hath said, In every soul I made a door, and in this my light shineth. Herein my voice speaketh. But they turn away and go after them that speak to the external ear. A serpent biteth them, and they are cast in poison and in death. Verse 7. Man on earth hath said, I will not heed thy still small voice, O Jehovah, which speaketh to the soul. I will obey the king that leads on to war, and with loud noises and violent oath pursueth death-dealing as a virtuous trade. Not thou, O Jehovah, shall be my master, but their king, who hath great paganry. Behold, I will stand in his great army, or be led on to death, even as the king willeth me. For he is my Savior and my defense. His gods shall be my gods, his lords my lords, his Savior my Savior. By blood and heroic butcheries will I prove my loyalty. So here is showing you the clear difference between a person who worships the Creator compared to a person who worships a false god. Those who worship the false gods will rise in warfare to defend that god. That's not the ways of the Creator. Now, the ways of the Creator is the opposite of warfare. So if your God has convinced you to warfare, you've been deceived. Verse 8. And even so hath thousands of millions of angels in Hades said, Not the still small voice of my soul will I obey, but yonder, gaudy God, whose sacredness is so great none can approach him but by crawling on their bellies. He shall be my Lord and Savior. His battles shall be my battles. To feed the hells of Hades with his enemy shall be my trade. So here's another example of false god worship and warring for your false god. Verse 9. Jehovah hath said, Even to them that choose darkness and evil have I given liberty also, for they shall learn by experience in time to come that all these guides and leaders, be they kings or gods or lords or savior, are but snares from whom sooner or later they must turn in order to rise out of the hells they have built for others. For because they put me off afar, or denied my person, or called me void like the wind, I cut them not off, but they cut themselves off from me, and thus fall into torment. Verse 10, for I am as near to the Comporeans as to the Esaians, meaning the physical man, woman, and child, and the spiritual man, woman, and child. Let them disown their kings and gods, whoso hath a kingdom to glorify, and they shall espouse me, for I am ever present. For this all people shall do, either on the earth or in heaven. My kingdoms are not by violence or by war, but by liberty to every soul. And whoso practice peace and love and liberty unto others are my chosen. They are on the way of everlasting resurrection. So here YEHOVAH gives another example from his ways compared to the ways of the false god. The ways of the false god are about violence and warfare, and the ways of the Creator is completely opposite, about liberty to every soul, practicing peace, love, and unity. Now, how many people out there you find doing that? Now, Book of Wars against YEHOVAH, chapter 54, verse 1 through 22. About the time Baal and Asthorth had destroyed the inhabitants of the earth in Persia and Hellas, they applied to Osiris, demanding promotion to separate kingdoms of their own. They said, verse 2, thou knows of a truth that for sake of confederacy we merge our kingdoms into thine, to make thee powerful against the wars of Tin and Sudga in heaven. And to do thy will, we have laid desolate the mortal kingdoms of Persia and Hellas. For which things thou didst promise us in the start, we should have great kingdoms in heaven. Verse 3, now behold, heaven is but one vast scene of war, and this also do we perceive, that the mighty contests are without any prospect of an end. As these heavenly wars raged hundreds of years ago, even so do they this day. Yeah, the heavenly force are becoming less disciplined and less scrupulous from year to year. Verse 4, by evidence of which it is plain that thy heavens and Tins and Sudgas will sooner or later be cast interminable hells, to prevent which we ask of thee, our God, go give us each a section to ourselves, and we will subdue the places and govern them in our own way. Verse 5, Osiris answered them, saying, of all the gods, who but I hath done a hand's turn to raise mortal subjects to a higher plane? Tin's course was destruction, so was Sudga's, and by much importuning ye twain pursued me to have the mortals of Persia and Hellas destroyed. And now in the time when most of all we should be united, ye importune me to have my great kingdom disrupted and divided. Perceive ye not that we have the balance of power in our favor? And also, that if in these troublous times ye espouse new kingdoms, we will all be at the mercy of Tin and Sudga. Verse 6, for which reason I beseech ye both to postpone the matter till we have driven our enemies from our doors. Let us be faithful to the confederacy. Verse 7, now in this affair Baal and Ashtoroth came not to Osiris in person, but sent messengers, as if they were ashamed of their own proposal. And yet, on the other hand, Osiris invited them not to his kingdom. Verse 8, Ashtoroth said to Baal, see what Osiris hath done? He taketh us for children, giving us sweet promises if we will but keep right on serving him. I tell thee, Baal, thou mayst serve Osiris, but from this time forth I am none of his. Behold, I will mark out a kingdom of my own, and I will establish it and rule it in my own way. Moreover, I will send word to Tin and Sudga, and if Osiris balk me, they shall know his vulnerable points. Verse 9, Baal said, even so will I, and I will establish a kingdom alongside of thine, and if our enemies attack us, we can the better defend ourselves. Verse 10, so said, so done. And Baal marked out for his heavenly kingdom over Hellas and northwest Arabia, and Ashtaroth marked out for her heavenly kingdom over Persia and northeast Arabia. And the twine no sooner chose their generals and captains and founded their heavenly thrones. Then they sent word to Osiris and to Tin and to Sudga. So here is showing you how Baal and Ashtaroth established their own heavenly kingdoms in the regions mentioned. Verse 11, a general dismemberment of these mighty kingdoms took place. In Osiris' heavens there revolted one, Kabath, who took the name Thamus. He was a general whom tens of thousands of angel officers delighted to serve. He marked out his heavenly place over western Egypt and established his throne and officer, and had himself proclaimed to mortals through the oracle as the only son of the Great Spirit, the Savior of men. Verse 12,